All right, diving into blockchain today. And wow, you weren't kidding around with this stack of info. Articles, timelines, infographics. Someone's been doing their homework.
Well, it's an area generating a lot of buzz these days, and for good reason.
I'll admit, I mostly just thought about Bitcoin when I heard blockchain. But this looks like we're going way beyond that.
Definitely. And that's what's so fascinating about the material you've gathered. It goes way beyond the hype, digs into the history, a lot of it older than people might think, and the potential of this tech.
Yeah, I was surprised to see some of these dates. So before we get ahead of ourselves, maybe we should start with the definition for anyone who's completely new to this. What exactly is blockchain?
In essence, it's a new way to think about record keeping.
Okay.
It creates a secure and trustworthy record of transactions or information.
So like a digital ledger.
Exactly. But instead of being controlled by one central authority, like a bank or government, it's distributed across a network of computers. And that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, because I was about to ask, what's to stop someone from messing with the records if they're spread out like that?
That's the beauty of it. Each block of data added to this chain is linked to the previous block using cryptography.
Cryptography. Sounds complicated.
Basically, it creates a tamper-proof seal. If someone tries to change something in one block, it invalidates the entire chain.
So it's like a domino effect.
Exactly. And because this chain is constantly being verified by multiple computers on the network, it becomes incredibly secure and transparent.
Got it. But you mentioned this tech has roots that go way back. I have to admit, I was picturing something very 21st century.
You'd be surprised. The story starts all the way back in 1979.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, 1979. That's where we find the foundation for something called Merkle trees.
Merkle trees. Sounds like something out of Tolkien.
Right, but this isn't fantasy. Essentially, it's a way to verify data's accurate without needing a central authority.
Okay, no more middleman. That's a pretty big deal, even today.
Exactly. No single point of failure, no need to blindly trust one entity. That was the elegance of the idea, even back then.
Wow. So 1979, we have the seeds of this tech being planted. What happened next?
Well, fast forward a few years to 1982, and this guy, David Chaum, is already exploring the idea of digital cash.
Digital cash in 82. That's way before the internet as we know it.
Exactly. He was ahead of his time developing systems for secure digital transactions long before Bitcoin was even a thought.
Wow. So the desire to move away from physical money, that goes way back.
It does, and it speaks to a fundamental desire for secure, efficient transactions.
Makes sense. So we have the seeds of secure data and the desire for digital cash. What was the missing piece?
That's where our story takes another interesting turn in 1991 with Haber and Stornetta.
Okay, who were they?
They tackled this challenge of digital timestamps, a way to prove when a digital document was created or modified.
And why was that important?
Think about the early internet. It was the Wild West in terms of security and trust. How could you be sure a document was the original and hadn't been tampered with?
Right, like if you were sending a contract or something.
Exactly. Their work was a huge step towards building trust in the digital world. And it's another crucial piece of the blockchain puzzle.
So it sounds like we have all these separate ingredients developing over time. What brought it all together?
Well, that's where Bitcoin enters the scene.
Ah, here we go. So Bitcoin wasn't the start of blockchain, but rather...
It was the catalyst, like having all the ingredients for a cake, but not knowing how to bake it until someone figures out the recipe.
And Bitcoin was that recipe.
Exactly. It brought these pieces together in a new way, capturing the world's attention.
And that's where this infographic you brought comes in, right? It breaks down how a blockchain transaction actually works step by step. You want to walk us through it?
Absolutely. Let's use a simple example. Let's say you and I, we want to make a transaction.
Okay. But not with actual money, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm a little low on cash after that last grocery store trip.
No worries. We can pretend. Let's say you're sending me, I don't know, a digital concert ticket.
Perfect. I'm all about that. So I want to send you this ticket securely. How does blockchain come into play?
It acts as the intermediary, ensuring everything is above board. First, you initiate the transaction. You're essentially saying, hey, I want to send this ticket.
Okay, so far so good. But how do we know someone's not out there pretending to be me sending out fake tickets?
That's where the block part comes in.
Go.
This transaction, along with others happening around the same time, get bundled together.
Like a package deal.
Exactly. Think of it as a digital envelope containing multiple transactions. And this envelope, or block, is time-stamped and linked to the previous block, creating that unbreakable chain.
Ah, I'm starting to see how this works. So we have our block of transactions ready to go. What happens next?
Now it's time for verification. This is where miners come in.
Miners, like with pickaxes and hard hats.
Laughing. Not quite. In the blockchain world, miners are people using their computers to verify transactions.
Okay, so instead of digging for gold,
They're solving complex math problems. Think of it like a massive Sudoku competition happening globally. If the map checks out, the block is valid.
And because these miners are decentralized, no one entity controls the verification process.
Exactly. And if even one detail is off in a transaction, the whole block gets flagged, and the miners won't add it to the blockchain.
Wow, that's pretty clever. So it's like having 1,000 different referees checking for fouls, making it really hard to cheat.
Precisely. Once a block is verified, it's time-stamped, linked to the previous block, and added to the chain.
And because each block is linked, you can't tamper with one without affecting the entire chain.
Exactly. Making fraud incredibly difficult.
Okay, back to our concert ticket. The transaction's verified. What now?
Now it's officially recorded on the blockchain, permanent and tamper-proof. You've sent the ticket, and I've received it, all thanks to the magic of blockchain.
Okay, I have to admit, that's actually way more straightforward than I thought it would be.
It's elegant in its simplicity.
Right. And the best part is, it seems like the applications go way beyond just digital currency.
Absolutely. We've only just begun to scratch the surface of what blockchain can do.
So we've gone from digital pizza to digital concert tickets.
And beyond?
And beyond. You mentioned some real-world examples earlier, like
Walmart.
Yeah, Walmart using it for their supply chain, which blew my mind a little bit.
It's pretty amazing to think about. Imagine walking into the grocery store, picking up, say, a carton of eggs, and knowing exactly which farm they came from.
Wait, for real?
Absolutely. That's the power of blockchain in supply chain management. Walmart's been exploring this to track their products, ensuring transparency and safety.
So it's like next-level traceability.
Yeah.
No more mystery meat, huh?
Exactly. And it's not just about food. Think pharmaceuticals, luxury goods, anything where authenticity and origin really matter.
So you can be sure you're getting the real deal, not some knockoff.
Exactly. Blockchain eliminates that uncertainty, creates a verifiable history for every product.
That's huge. I mean, I can see how that would be a game changer for businesses, but for us regular consumers, too.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just theoretical. We're already seeing this play out in industries like shipping. Maersk, the shipping giant.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
They tried to create this platform, TradeLens, aiming to streamline global trade using blockchain.
Ambitious.
It was. Faced some hurdles, getting enough companies on board to make it work seamlessly, but still. The idea itself is powerful. Imagine real-time shipment tracking, reduced paperwork, faster resolution of disputes.
Wow, that would be incredible. Makes you wonder why it didn't take off.
Well, getting everyone on the same page, especially in a global industry like that, it's tricky. But the potential's there. And it illustrates how blockchain can revolutionize how we move goods around the world.
Okay, so from farm to grocery store across oceans. What other applications are we talking about here?
Let's talk about something that impacts everyone. Medical records.
Ooh, yeah, that's a timely one.
Right. It's a system that's, well, pretty fragmented right now.
To put it mildly?
To put it mildly.
Yeah.
Your information's scattered, different providers, different portals, a mess to keep track of.
And don't even get me started on trying to transfer those records when you move or see a new doctor.
Nightmare. But blockchain offers a solution. Imagine a secure, streamlined system where your entire medical history is stored and readily transferable. With your consent, of course.
Okay, now that's a future I can get behind. No more carrying around those clunky files.
Exactly. Faster diagnoses, improved treatment. It could revolutionize healthcare.
So we've covered supply chains, global trade, healthcare. What else? Give me another one.
How about digital identity? Blockchain can give individuals more control over their personal data. Imagine a world where you choose what information to share, when, and with whom.
Okay, I like the sound of that, especially these days.
Absolutely. And it doesn't stop there. We're seeing blockchain explored for secure online voting, making elections more transparent and less prone to fraud. And of course, there are NFTs.
NFTs, yeah. Everyone's talking about those, but I feel like a lot of people, myself included, are still trying to wrap their heads around what they actually are.
It's a whole other rabbit hole. But essentially, NFTs are changing how we think about ownership, particularly in the digital world. Artists, musicians, creators, they're using NFTs to sell their work directly to collectors, bypassing traditional gatekeepers.
And because it's all tracked on the blockchain, there's no question of authenticity or ownership.
Exactly. It's a game changer for creative industries. But of course, with all this potential, it's important to remember the challenges.
Right. It can't all be smooth sailing, can it? What kind of roadblocks are we talking about?
Well, one of the big ones is regulation. Governments around the world are still trying to figure out how to handle this new decentralized technology.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of gray area there.
There is. How do you create frameworks for something that was designed to exist outside traditional systems? How do you prevent illicit activities without stifling innovation?
It's a tough balance to strike, for sure. What else?
Scalability. As more people and industries adopt blockchain, can it handle the massive amount of data? Will it slow down, become less efficient?
Right, so it's not just about the technology itself, but how we as a society adapt to its use and navigate these complexities.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole space so fascinating to watch. It's this intersection of technology, social dynamics, economics. It's everything.
And speaking of intersections, you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to circle back to, Web 3.0.
Ah, yes. The decentralized internet.
Right, that vision of a more user-centric online experience where we have more control over our data.
It's a powerful idea, moving away from these centralized platforms that, let's be honest, have a lot of power right now.
More power than they probably should.
Right. And blockchain is seen as a key building block for this vision. Secure digital identities, new forms of online governance. It's about shifting the balance of power.
So instead of a few big companies calling all the shots, it's more democratic.
Yeah, in a sense, yes. More distributed, more user-driven. Of course, it's still early days for Web 3.0, but the potential is there.
It's exciting to think about, and it doesn't stop there. We talked about AI earlier. What happens when you combine that with blockchain?
Now that is where things get really interesting.
Blockchain and AI. A match made in tech heaven. Or maybe a recipe for disaster. I'm a little terrified, to be honest.
It's definitely one of the most exciting frontiers in this space. And yeah, a little healthy skepticism is always good.
So how would this even work? Do they, talk to each other?
In a way. Imagine AI algorithms, but instead of being fed data that might be incomplete or unreliable, they get to feast on this secure, tamper-proof data stored on the blockchain.
Ah, so it's like giving them a superpowered diet of information.
Exactly. And what happens when you give an AI good data? It can do incredible things. We could see more accurate predictions, better decision-making, all while knowing the underlying data is trustworthy.
Okay, I'm starting to see the potential here.
Mm-hmm.
But what kind of real-world impact are we talking about?
Think about fraud detection, for example. AI is already used to spot suspicious activity, but with blockchain, it gets even smarter.
Because it has that whole history to analyze, right?
Exactly. Or take something like transaction optimization. AI could analyze blockchain data in real time to find the most efficient, cost-effective ways to move assets or information.
So faster, cheaper, and more secure transactions, all thanks to AI and blockchain working together. That's pretty impressive.
It is. And it highlights how these two technologies can really enhance each other, driving innovation in ways we might not even be able to imagine yet. Okay, so much to think about. Zooming back out a little, what other big changes might blockchain bring about in the coming years?
Remember we were talking about NFTs earlier?
Yeah, those digital tokens that prove ownership of digital art, music, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's just scratching the surface. As blockchain tech gets more sophisticated, we might see a world where everything from real estate to intellectual property is bought, sold, and traded on blockchain platforms.
Wait, seriously? Like, I could buy a house using blockchain? It's not out of the realm of possibility. And think about the implications. The process would be more transparent, less prone to fraud, and potentially even faster.
Okay, now that's a game changer. But what about those challenges we discussed earlier? Do they throw a wrench in these futuristic scenarios?
They definitely need to be addressed. Like we said, scalability is a big one. Can blockchain handle millions, billions of transactions happening simultaneously? That's something developers are working on, finding ways to make it more efficient without sacrificing security.
And what about the regulatory side of things? It seems like there's still a lot of uncertainty about how governments will approach this technology.
Absolutely. Striking that balance, fostering innovation while preventing harmful use, that's going to be crucial. And it's not just up to governments either. It'll require collaboration between policymakers, industry leaders, and everyday users like us.
It's a team effort, for sure. And speaking of the future, you mentioned earlier that Bitcoin mining is projected to hit a limit around the year 2140.
Right, because there's only a finite amount of Bitcoin that can be mined.
So what happens then? Does the value of Bitcoin just skyrocket? Do we all switch to a new digital currency? What does a post-Bitcoin world even look like?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, no one knows for sure. But that's part of what makes this so fascinating. We're in uncharted territory, witnessing the birth of something completely new.
It's a little daunting when you put it like that.
It is, but it's also incredibly exciting. The future of blockchain is full of potential, full of unknowns. But if these past few decades have taught us anything, it's that this technology has the power to reshape our world in profound ways.
And on that note, I think we've done our brains enough exercise for one day. We've journeyed from the origins of Merkle trees all the way to the mind-blowing possibilities of a blockchain-powered future.
It's been quite a ride.
It has. Big thanks to you for breaking it all down for us. For anyone listening, if your head's not spinning after that deep dive, you aren't paying attention. But seriously, this is a conversation that's only going to get more important, more relevant in the coming years. So keep learning, stay curious, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the one building the next groundbreaking blockchain application. Until next time.